Here's a psychology fact you're not ready for. If you've always felt like staying positive feels harder for you than for everyone else, there is a reason. And no, it is not because you are weak, broken, or incapable. Your brain may simply process stress, pressure, and emotion at a deeper level than most people ever will. You feel more, you think more, and that makes negativity hit harder. But what if I told you that this is not your curse, but your advantage? What if the very mind that drags you into overthinking can be trained to pull you into strength, clarity, and emotional control? Because positivity is not something you are born with, it is something you learn to command. In this audiobook, you will discover the psychological truth behind why your mind resists positivity and the exact methods to force it to shift. Not through fake smiles or empty motivation, but through control, awareness, and mental discipline. If you are tired of feeling trapped inside your own thoughts, stay with me until the end, because by the time this is over, you will understand how to take back control of your mind and create positivity even when your world tells you not to. Chapter 1. The truth about your negative mind. There is nothing wrong with you. This is the first truth you must understand. The fact that your mind drifts toward negativity does not mean you are weak. It means you are human. The problem is not that negative thoughts appear. The problem is that no one ever taught you how to respond when they do. Most people wake up believing their thoughts are facts. They assume every emotion is truth and every feeling deserves obedience. When sadness hits, they sink into it. When fear rises, they surrender to it. When doubt whispers, they follow it. Over time, this becomes habit, and eventually the mind becomes conditioned to expect pain before it even arrives. Negativity does not begin overnight. It is built through repetition, through experiences that taught you to stay alert, through disappointments that taught you to brace for the worst, through small moments where your mind learned that expecting less protects you from getting hurt. What once started as a defense became your default personality. But here is what few people understand. Just as the mind was trained to stay negative, it can be retrained to move toward strength. This is not about pretending everything is fine. This is about confronting the way your inner world works and rewriting its rules. The mind is not your enemy. It is a survival machine. It scans for danger. It remembers pain. It prepares you for impact. It leans toward negativity because it was designed to protect you. But in a modern world full of emotional stress rather than physical threats, that same protection becomes a prison. You replay worst-case scenarios before they happen. You imagine rejection before anyone speaks. You doubt yourself before you even try. Not because you enjoy suffering, but because your brain believes it is keeping you safe. It confuses caution with control and fear with wisdom. When you understand this, something powerful happens. You stop attacking yourself for feeling low. You stop judging your own mind. And once judgment leaves, clarity enters. Negativity is not your identity. It is a program, a pattern, a learned response. And anything that was learned can be unlearned. The first step to forcing positivity is awareness. You must begin to notice your negative thoughts without becoming them. There is a difference between experiencing a thought and identifying with it. A thought that says, "I am not good enough," is not who you are. It is simply a voice created from past conditioning. When you observe your mind instead of reacting to it, you create distance. In that distance, power grows. You realize you're not the storm. You are the one watching the storm. This is where transformation begins. When you pause between thought and action, you reclaim control. Most people do not struggle because life is hard. They struggle because their inner dialogue is cruel. They speak to themselves in ways they would never speak to anyone else. They replay their mistakes endlessly. They project failure before success even has a chance to appear. Forcing yourself to stay positive does not mean banning negative thoughts. It means refusing to let them dominate the narrative. You acknowledge them, but you do not let them lead. You take back authorship of the story playing in your mind. Think about this. If you listen to someone tell you you are worthless every day, eventually you would start to believe it. Yet many people listen to that voice inside themselves constantly and wonder why their confidence fades. The mind believes what it hears repeatedly. To force positivity, you must interrupt that repetition. You must challenge the familiar narratives that no longer serve you. The moment you question a negative thought, it begins to lose its power. The moment you replace it, the old pattern weakens. This is not instant. It is gradual, it is discipline, it is practice. Just like strengthening a muscle, you strengthen your mental resilience through consistent effort. Positivity is not an emotion. It is a decision, a choice you make even when it feels unnatural, especially when it feels unnatural. Your brain will resist it first. It will cling to what it knows. It will say, this is fake or unrealistic. But repetition rewires perception. Over time, the voice of doubt grows quieter, and the voice of strength grows louder. You are not forcing happiness. You are forcing perspective. You are teaching your mind to focus on what empowers rather than what weakens. Every time you catch a negative thought and choose to respond differently, you become stronger. Every time you redirect your attention, even slightly, you reclaim ground. This is how positivity is built, brick by brick, thought by thought. It is important to understand that forcing positivity does not mean denying reality. It means choosing how you engage with it. You can acknowledge pain without allowing it to define you. You can feel struggle without letting it own you. There is a powerful difference between saying, life is difficult, and saying, my life is hopeless. One describes a moment, the other creates a future. Your thoughts shape your reality. Not in a mystical way, but in a neurological way. What you focus on grows. What you repeat reinforces. What you believe becomes behavior. When you believe you can't change, you stop trying. When you believe you're stuck, you remain stuck. But when you believe your mind can be trained, you begin to move. This chapter is about recognizing that your current emotional state is not permanent. It is fluid, it is changeable, and it responds to conscious effort. You are not broken. You are untrained. And untrained means potential exists. Every positive thought you choose, no matter how small, is an act of rebellion against unconscious negativity. Every moment you choose hope instead of despair, clarity instead of chaos, calm instead of panic, you are rewriting your mental fabric. Even now, as you listen to these words, your mind is shifting. Awareness is forming. Understanding is growing. Something inside you is starting to realize that change is possible. And this realization is the foundation of everything that follows. You do not have to wait for life to improve to feel better. You start feeling better, so life improves. This is the beginning of control, the beginning of self-mastery, the beginning of freedom. Positivity is not about being cheerful. It is about being intentional. It is not about ignoring darkness. It is about choosing to walk toward light, even when the path feels unfamiliar. Your mind will test you. It will pull you back into old habits. That is normal. Progress does not mean perfection. It means persistence. Each time you redirect, you strengthen the new path. The truth about your negative mind is this: it is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to protect you in outdated ways. And now it is time to teach it a new language. One where strength replaces fear. One where control replaces chaos. One where positivity is not an accident, but a discipline. This is where your journey begins, not with forcing happiness, but with understanding your mind and deciding to lead it instead of following it. And the moment you make that decision, everything changes. Chapter 2. Rewriting the voice that controls you. Every day, whether you notice it or not, there is a voice speaking inside your mind. It narrates your life, interprets your experiences, and whispers judgments about who you are and where you are going. This voice shapes your emotional world more than any external circumstance ever could. And for most people, this voice has been allowed to run freely for far too long. This inner voice decides how you feel when you wake up. It decides how you respond to stress. It decides whether you see failure as proof of weakness or as evidence of growth. It decides whether you move forward or retreat into doubt. And if it has been speaking in negativity for years, it can feel like it owns you. But here is the truth that changes everything. The voice in your head is not your identity. It is a habit. It is a conditioned response shaped by your past experiences, your environment, and the stories you have repeated to yourself over time. And since it was created through repetition, it can be reshaped through repetition as well. Rewriting the voice that controls you begins with awareness. You must listen to it without surrendering to it. Notice how it talks to you when things go wrong. Notice how quick it is to criticize. Notice how it magnifies mistakes and minimizes progress. This is not the voice of truth. This is the echo of old pain, old expectations, and old fears. You were not born speaking to yourself this way. At some point, something taught you to doubt, to shrink, to hesitate. Maybe it was a moment of rejection. Maybe it was criticism that cut deeper than you realized. Maybe it was a situation that made you feel small. Over time, your mind took these moments and built a narrative around them. That narrative became your inner voice. Many people mistake this inner voice for truth because it sounds familiar. It feels normal, but familiar does not mean correct. It simply means repeated. When the voice says you are not good enough, you believe it because you have heard it many times before. When it says you will fail, you accept it because it feels predictable. But predictability does not equal reality. It simply means your mind has learned a pattern and continues to replay it. To force yourself to stay positive, you must interrupt this cycle. You must challenge the authority of your inner dialogue and reclaim the right to decide how you speak to yourself. This does not happen through aggression. It happens through deliberate redirection. Each time a negative thought arises, you respond with awareness. You do not argue. You do not suppress. You simply choose a new narrative. For example, when the voice says, "I always mess things up," you respond not with denial, but with clarity. You acknowledge the frustration and then choose a stronger truth. You say, "I am learning and growing. I am becoming more capable every day." This is not blind optimism. This is mental leadership. The human mind is impressionable. It absorbs what it hears most often. If it hears weakness, it becomes weak. If it hears strength, it becomes resilient. Words shape perception. Perception shapes emotion. Emotion shapes behavior. This is the power of rewriting your internal voice. At first, it will feel unnatural. Your old patterns will resist. They will try to pull you back into familiarity. But persistence creates change. Each time you redirect the voice, you carve a new pathway in your brain. Over time, that pathway becomes the new default. Your mind begins to learn that kindness is its new language. Strength becomes its new tone. Confidence becomes its new rhythm. This is not about perfection. You will still hear negative thoughts, but now they no longer control you. They become background noise instead of dominant commands. Rewriting the voice also changes how you see the world. Situations no longer feel as heavy. Challenges become opportunities. Mistakes become lessons, and progress becomes visible. There is a powerful shift that happens when your internal dialogue moves from criticism to compassion. You start feeling safer inside your own head. The place that once felt like a battlefield becomes a sanctuary. And when your inner world is peaceful, your outer world reflects that peace. The way you speak to yourself determines how you treat yourself. If the voice inside is harsh, you live in constant tension. If the voice inside is supportive, you build self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of lasting positivity. To rewrite the voice, consistency is essential. You cannot change years of conditioning in a single moment. But every day you choose better language, you reclaim control. Every time you speak encouragement instead of fear, you reinforce a new identity. This process is deeply personal. No one hears your inner voice but you, and that means no one else can rewrite it but you as well. Take a moment to imagine what it would feel like to wake up and hear gentleness instead of doubt, to hear encouragement instead of criticism, to hear belief instead of fear. That is what you are building through this discipline. Forced positivity works not because it ignores reality, but because it reshapes perspective. A strong voice within does not erase pain, but it gives you the strength to move through it. When life challenges you and your mind responds with calm strength instead of panic, you feel more capable. When failure happens and your inner voice speaks growth instead of shame, you recover faster. When uncertainty rises and your inner voice offers clarity instead of chaos, you remain centered. This is how positivity becomes sustainable. It grows from the inside out. Your mind listens to you. It hears every word you repeat, and it builds your emotional reality around that voice. If you change how you speak to yourself, you change how you experience life. And this is one of the most powerful realizations you can have. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts. You are the architect of them. The inner voice does not disappear. It evolves. It becomes your ally instead of your enemy. It becomes the voice that supports you when no one else does. It becomes the strength that carries you when everything feels heavy. Through this process, you begin to understand that positivity is not a mood. It is a mental environment. It is the space you create inside yourself where resilience grows. Each time you choose empowerment over doubt, you move closer to mastery. Each time you guide your thoughts instead of obeying them, you sharpen your control. And each time you choose strength over fear, you transform your inner world. Rewriting the voice is not about silencing negativity entirely. It is about redefining the conversation. Instead of a voice that tears you down, you cultivate one that builds you up. Instead of a voice that convinces you to quit, you create one that reminds you why you started. This is where discipline meets compassion. This is where control meets understanding. This is where real positivity begins. And as this new voice grows stronger, you will begin to notice a shift in everything. Your reactions change. Your mindset strengthens. Your emotional stability deepens. You move with greater confidence. Your presence becomes more grounded. This voice becomes the foundation upon which you build every other habit in your life. And once this foundation is secure, nothing can shake it. Chapter 3. Controlling your focus when everything feels heavy. There will be days when positivity feels distant. Days when no matter how much effort you apply, your mind keeps returning to the same dark corner. This is not failure. This is the natural resistance of an old mental pattern trying to reclaim control. And this is precisely the moment when focus becomes the most powerful tool you possess. Your focus is the gateway to your emotional state. What you choose to concentrate on determines how you feel, how you react, and how you move through the world. The mind cannot hold two dominant focuses at the same time. It cannot stay deeply engaged in gratitude and despair simultaneously. One always overrides the other. Your role is to decide which one takes the lead. When negativity takes hold, it often feels automatic. Your attention locks onto problems, disappointments, and imagined worst cases. You replay conversations. You analyze moments that already passed. You anticipate outcomes that have not yet arrived. All of this creates a mental fog that makes it nearly impossible to feel positive. But the truth is this: your mind goes where you repeatedly send it. Focus is not something that happens to you, it is something you practice. Think of focus as a muscle. The more you allow it to drift toward negativity, the stronger that pattern becomes. The more you intentionally redirect it toward clarity, the easier positivity becomes to access. Forcing positivity begins with mastering what captures your attention. The first step is noticing your focus in real time, not later, not after the spiral has finished, but in the middle of it. Ask yourself, where is my attention right now? Is it helping me or draining me? This awareness alone creates space for choice. You stop being carried by your mind and start steering it. When negativity takes hold, do not attack them, redirect them. Shift your attention to something that grounds you, your breathing, the sensation of your body, the present moment around you. This is not avoidance, it is stabilization. The present moment is the foundation of mental control. Negativity thrives in the past and future. Positivity lives in now. By placing your attention on what is real and immediate, you reduce the power of imagined fear. You teach your mind that it does not need to stay in constant anticipation. Calm becomes the new reference point. Controlling your focus does not mean forcing happiness. It means guiding your attention toward what builds you rather than what breaks you. Imagine walking through a field. You can choose to stare at the broken ground and trip, or you can lift your eyes and move forward with purpose. The field does not change, your angle does. This is the same with your mind. The situation may remain difficult, but your focus transforms your experience of it. When things feel heavy, your instinct is to escape, to distract, to numb. But true mental strength comes from conscious redirection. You guide your focus deliberately. You choose where your energy goes. This choice may feel small, but its impact is powerful. Each time you redirect your mind, you strengthen the neural pathways that support clarity and resilience. Each time you focus on progress instead of loss, you move closer to stability. One of the most effective ways to control focus is through intentional language. What you say to yourself frames your perception. Instead of thinking, "This is too much," try thinking, "I am handling this moment by moment." Instead of thinking, "I cannot do this," shift to, "I am building strength through this." These shifts may appear subtle, but they redirect emotional energy. They align focus with power instead of helplessness. Another powerful method is physical grounding. When your mind overwhelms you, move your body. Walk, stretch, breathe deeply. Focus thrives in motion. Movement disrupts negative loops and creates emotional clarity. It signals to your brain that you are safe and capable. Your environment also influences your focus. The music you listen to, the content you consume, the people you surround yourself with, all of these shape where your mind naturally goes. If you constantly feed yourself negativity, your mind will amplify it. If you surround yourself with hope and purpose, your mind learns balance. Focus is not only mental, it is emotional and sensory. You can influence it through sound, light, movement, and presence. Positivity becomes more accessible when your environment supports it. But even in the darkest moments, focus can be reclaimed. You may not be able to control what happened. You may not be able to change what hurts, but you can decide where your attention rests. You can choose to focus on what you learned instead of what you lost. You can choose to focus on the strength that carried you through instead of the pain that slowed you down. You can choose to focus on your next step instead of your last mistake. This is not denial, this is leadership. Forcing yourself to stay positive is not about pretending the burden is light. It is about refusing to let the burden define your identity. You are allowed to feel heavy, you are allowed to struggle, but you are not required to stay there. Focus gives you the exit. One of the greatest illusions of negativity is the belief that it will last forever. When your focus is trapped, time feels frozen, pain feels permanent. But when you redirect your attention, movement returns, perspective shifts, possibility becomes visible again. You begin to realize that this moment is temporary, that this feeling has an expiration, that you are not trapped, only passing through. And with that realization, strength rises. Controlling focus also means limiting exposure to what drains you. Endless scrolling, replaying old arguments, seeking validation from people who don't understand you. All of these fracture your mental clarity. Reduce what weakens you, increase what strengthens you. Focus thrives in intentional living, in deliberate action, in conscious awareness. When you choose a focus aligned with growth, your emotions begin to stabilize. You feel less reactive, more grounded, more in control. You stop being consumed by every thought and start observing them. This shift creates space. In that space, creativity grows, peace develops, strength becomes visible. You are not forcing your mind into false positivity. You are teaching it where to look. And where the mind looks, energy follows. There will still be moments when your thoughts resist, when heaviness tries to return. That is part of the process. But each time you redirect, the resistance weakens. Each time you choose clarity, the pattern breaks. Your focus becomes your sanctuary, a place you can return to when chaos surrounds you. And over time, positivity stops feeling forced. It becomes familiar, natural, grounded. This is the discipline that changes everything. Not the absence of struggle, but the mastery of attention. When you control your focus, you control your emotional state. When you control your emotional state, you shape your reality. This is the power within you, the power to choose where your mind lives. And as you strengthen this ability, you realize something profound. Staying positive is not about having no darkness. It is about knowing where to place your light. And that knowledge is what gives you freedom. Chapter 4. The Ritual that makes positivity unbreakable. There is a silent force that shapes your emotional world more than motivation ever could. It is not willpower. It is not inspiration. It is ritual. The quiet repetition of actions that guide your mind before it has time to fall back into chaos. When life feels heavy, discipline feels impossible. You wake up already tired. You scroll without meaning. You move through the day reacting instead of leading. And by the time you notice your mood slipping, your mind has already chosen its direction for you. This is where ritual steps in, not as a punishment or a strict system, but as a structure that protects your mental stability. Positivity that depends on mood will never last. Moods change, energy fades, life interrupts. But positivity anchored in ritual creates consistency. It becomes reliable. It becomes part of your identity. Ritual is not about perfection. It is about rhythm, a rhythm that keeps you grounded even when everything else feels uncertain. You do not rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your habits. That is why a single decision made repeatedly becomes stronger than 100 emotional resolutions made once. The mind craves predictability. It feels safe when life has structure. When there is order, your nervous system relaxes. When there is consistency, your mind resists chaos. Ritual gives you that safety. It creates a sense of control that stabilizes your emotions and clears your focus. Most people wait to feel good before they act, but those who master positivity act first and allow the feeling to follow. They move their body even when they do not feel like it. They breathe deeply even when stress tells them to panic. They choose intention even when their mind begs for escape. This is how you force positivity, not by hoping for it, but by building a daily environment where positivity becomes inevitable. A ritual can be as simple as a morning moment of silence, a deep breath before checking your phone, a glass of water before any distraction, a walk after every difficult moment. These actions may appear small, but repeated daily, they shape your emotional response to life. Your morning sets the tone for your entire day. If the first voice you hear is anxiety, your mind runs toward it. If the first signal you give yourself is calm, your nervous system aligns with peace. You begin your day by choosing clarity instead of chaos. Positivity is built in ordinary moments, in the decision to wake up and stretch, instead of instantly consuming noise. In the moment you choose stillness before stimulation, in the pause between reaction and awareness. You do not need dramatic changes. You need meaningful consistency. Your ritual becomes your anchor. It reminds your mind of who you are becoming. It signals safety when tension tries to take over. When life shakes you, your ritual grounds you. This grounding is where resilience grows. When you repeat the same stabilizing behaviors, your mind learns that stability is available, that calm exists, that strength is accessible. And over time, these rituals become automatic responses rather than forced efforts. You stop needing to remind yourself to be positive. Your routine trains you to operate from a place of clarity. One of the most powerful rituals is intentional breathing. Not rushed, not shallow, slow and aware. Deep breaths change your nervous system. They shift your body from stress to safety. Just a few minutes of conscious breathing resets your emotional state. It is a direct signal to your brain that it is safe to relax. Another ritual is sensory grounding, feeling the floor beneath your feet, the weight of your body in a chair, the texture of something real. These small physical anchors pull you away from mental storms and bring you into the present moment. Movement also transforms energy. The body and mind are deeply connected. When your body moves, your emotions follow. Walking slowly, stretching gently, shaking tension from your muscles. These rituals release trapped stress and create mental clarity. Positive routines do not require intensity. They require consistency. Every ritual you repeat becomes a message to your subconscious mind, a message that says stability exists, peace is possible, control is within reach. When your days begin and end in grounding rituals, your emotional state becomes less reactive. You start responding to life instead of being consumed by it. This is the point where enforcing positivity shifts into embodying positivity. The ritual environment also protects your focus. Instead of allowing distractions to dominate, your routine makes you intentional. You choose how your day flows. You create structure where chaos once lived. The mind obeys habit. When ritual replaces randomness, clarity becomes normal. You are not forcing positivity through pressure. You're creating the conditions that allow it to flourish naturally. Over time, these rituals shape emotional discipline. You start noticing when negativity approaches. You recognize the sensation early, and you respond with your grounding practices instead of being carried away. This is true power, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of control. It is important to understand that rituals evolve. What serves you today may change tomorrow. The key is awareness. Adjust with intention. Build practices that serve your growth. Create rhythms that align with your energy. Your ritual is not a restriction. It is your support system. Each time you follow through with consistency, you strengthen trust in yourself. You feel more reliable. You believe in your ability to lead your own life. And that belief fuels confidence. Confidence grows from proof. Proof that you show up even when it's hard. Proof that you don't abandon yourself when emotions grow heavy. Proof that your word to yourself matters. When your rituals are consistent, your mind learns to cooperate instead of resist. Over time, your actions align with your identity. You begin seeing yourself not as someone trying to stay positive, but as someone who naturally remains grounded. That shift is everything. This is where positivity transforms from effort into character, from struggle into nature, from temporary into permanent. Rituals also guard your emotional boundaries. They remind you that your peace matters, that your mental state is worth protecting. You stop allowing every external event to dictate your internal world. You attach yourself to stability instead of chaos, and stability creates strength. Even when life feels uncertain, your ritual whispers certainty. Even when emotions rise, your routine reminds you of center. This is how you remain steady, not through force of will, but through structure and devotion to self-leadership. The truth is that most people want change without ritual. They want results without consistency. They hope for control without discipline. But positivity that lasts is built through repetition, through showing up for yourself, through choosing order over impulse, through devotion to clarity. And when this devotion becomes part of your life, something powerful happens. Positivity stops feeling fragile. It becomes dependable. It becomes part of your emotional foundation. This is the strength that carries you through chaos, the stability that supports you when the world shakes, the ritual that keeps your light alive when darkness attempts to claim attention. And from this stability, you move into deeper mastery, because once ritual anchors your positivity, the next step becomes even more profound. You begin to reshape not just your actions, but your identity. Chapter 5. Becoming the person positivity lives through. There comes a moment in every transformation when you realize the problem was never the world. It was never the people. It was never the circumstances. It was the way you saw yourself inside those moments. Staying positive is not just a behavior, it is an identity. And until your identity changes, positivity will always feel like something you are trying to wear instead of something you naturally become. For many years, you may have seen yourself as someone who struggles, someone who overthinks, someone who feels deeply and gets exhausted easily. You may have accepted labels that no longer serve you. You may have built a story about who you are based on moments of pain rather than moments of growth. Over time, that story became comfortable, even if it was damaging. Your mind learns to protect what feels familiar, even when that familiarity hurts. But true change does not come from fighting your old identity. It comes from outgrowing it. To force yourself to stay positive long-term, you must stop asking, "How do I stay positive?" and start asking, "Who must I become?" Because the version of you that constantly falls into negativity cannot build the life you desire. That version must evolve. Identity is the quiet force behind every habit, every reaction, every emotional response. You do not act based on what you want. You act based on who you believe you are. If you believe you are fragile, you avoid discomfort. If you believe you are resilient, you rise after falling. Behavior follows belief. This is why temporary motivation fades, because motivation tries to change actions without touching identity. But once identity shifts, behavior follows effortlessly. Becoming the person positivity lives through begins with releasing the narrative you have carried for so long. The narrative that says, "I am always negative. I ruin things. I cannot stay happy." These beliefs feel real because they have been repeated, but they are not permanent truths. They are stories awaiting revision. You are not breaking yourself apart. You are redefining your foundation. Begin by choosing a new self-image, not the one shaped by fear, but the one shaped by strength. See yourself as someone who grows through hardship, someone who responds instead of reacts, someone who chooses clarity over chaos. Speak these truths, even when they feel unfamiliar, especially when they feel unfamiliar. Your mind will challenge this shift. It will call it unrealistic. It will remind you of past failures. It will replay moments you wish you could forget. That is normal. The old identity does not disappear quietly. It clings. It resists. But persistence rewrites reality. Each time you choose to see yourself differently, you loosen the grip of your past self. Each time you act in alignment with your new identity, that identity becomes stronger. You become the person who pauses before reacting. You become the person who breathes through stress. You become the person who looks for lessons instead of blame. And with every moment of alignment, positivity becomes natural rather than forced. This process is not dramatic. It is quiet. It is internal. It happens in small choices, in how you respond to frustration, in how you speak to yourself after mistakes, in how you treat moments of weakness. True identity change lives in everyday decisions. When you stop identifying as someone controlled by emotion and start viewing yourself as someone who leads emotion, everything shifts. You move with intention. Your thoughts calm. Your reactions soften. You stop asking, "Why am I like this?" and start saying, "This is not who I am anymore." And this statement is not denial, it is evolution. One of the deepest shifts you can make is changing how you define yourself during struggle. Instead of saying, "I am broken," you say, "I am becoming." Instead of saying, "I always fail," you say, "I am learning." Instead of saying, "I cannot change," you say, "I am in progress." Language reshapes identity. Your identity does not need to be perfect. It needs to be intentional. It needs to point forward, not backwards. As you begin stepping into this new version of yourself, your environment will notice. Your energy shifts. Your conversations change. Your presence feels steadier. People respond differently because you respond differently. This is not coincidence. This is identity in motion. There is an emotional weight that lifts when you release your old story. You realize that you are not defined by your darkest moments. You understand that your future is not obligated to look like your past. This realization is liberating. You are no longer fighting negativity. You are replacing it. When negativity appears, you no longer say, "This is me." You say, "This is passing." You observe instead of absorb. You guide instead of surrender. This is how positivity becomes integrated rather than imposed. To deepen this transformation, begin reflecting on who you want to become. Not who others expect you to be, not who you feel pressured to perform as, but who you feel called to grow into. The grounded version of you. The calm thinker, the emotionally stable individual, the person who controls focus and energy. Hold that image clearly, then act as that person would act. Think as they would think. Speak as they would speak. Over time, the lines blur, and one day, you realize you are no longer trying to play that role. You have become it. That is the beauty of identity evolution. It begins as intention and ends as reality. There will be moments when your old identity returns, when doubt creeps in and you fall back into familiar patterns. That does not erase your progress. It is part of growth. Each time you recover, you reinforce your strength. Growth is not linear, but direction matters. You are not going back. Even when you stumble, you are moving forward. The more you align with your new identity, the more natural positivity becomes. You stop questioning it. You stop resisting it. You simply live it. And this is where everything changes. Your mind no longer battles itself. Your thoughts flow with consistency. Your emotional state becomes more balanced. You trust your stability. You become calm in moments where you once would have panicked. You remain steady when others lose control. You carry presence where chaos once ruled your inner world. All of this is the result of shifting identity. This transformation is quiet but powerful. It reshapes how you experience life, how you react to difficulty, how you see yourself. You stop trying to be positive. You start being someone who naturally operates from clarity and strength. And once you see yourself this way, the world begins to respond in alignment, because the most powerful change does not happen in what you do. It happens in who you decide to become. And from that decision, positivity stops being forced and starts being lived. Chapter 6. Staying positive when life refuses to cooperate. There will be moments when everything you have learned feels tested. Moments when the tools you practiced feel small compared to the weight you carry. Moments when life refuses to align with your intentions. This chapter is not about positivity when things are easy. It is about the quiet strength required to remain steady when chaos arrives uninvited. Because it will arrive. There will be days when your efforts are not rewarded. Days when rejection feels sharp and exhaustion feels endless. Days when your mind whispers that staying positive is pointless. These moments are not signs that your growth has failed. They are the very moments that define it. Real positivity is forged in resistance. It is not proven in peace, but revealed in pressure. When life refuses to cooperate, your instinct will be to collapse into old habits, to return to complaint, frustration, and hopelessness. That is the familiar path, but the discipline you are building demands something greater. It demands that you stay grounded when circumstances try to pull you apart. Positivity during hardship is not about pretending everything is fine. It is about choosing how you respond to the pain. You cannot always control what happens. You cannot always change the situation, but you can always choose your posture within it. You can choose to endure with dignity rather than despair. You can choose presence instead of panic. That choice is where power lives. When life feels unfair, your mind will search for blame. It will want to assign guilt, to create narrative, to justify suffering. But blame locks you into victimhood. Responsibility liberates you. Responsibility shifts the question from "why is this happening?" to "how will I face it?" That shift marks the difference between collapse and strength. When you stop demanding that life be easier and start focusing on becoming stronger, your emotional world transforms. You no longer chase stability through circumstance. You create stability through mindset. This is the maturity that separates those who grow from those who remain stuck. Staying positive when life refuses to cooperate means allowing yourself to feel, but refusing to drown. It means acknowledging pain without surrendering to it. It means standing firm while storms pass. Strength does not come from absence of struggle. It comes from resilience through struggle. In difficult moments, you must simplify your approach. Focus only on what is within your reach, the next breath, the next step, the next conscious thought. Do not overwhelm yourself by imagining the entire journey. Stay with what you can control right now. This moment is survivable. This second is manageable. This breath is possible. From this grounded presence, clarity returns. Your mind may say you are tired, but tired does not mean defeated. It means human. Allow tiredness to exist without giving it authority. Let exhaustion pass without becoming your identity. You can rest without surrendering. This is where emotional intelligence becomes essential. You learn to sit with discomfort without reacting impulsively. You learn to tolerate uncertainty without collapsing into fear. You learn to view struggle as information rather than a verdict. Hardship is a teacher, but only if you listen with courage. When life does not cooperate, the opportunity lies in how you respond. You may not control the event, but you control the meaning you assign to it. Meaning shapes emotion. Emotion shapes behavior, and behavior shapes destiny. You are not responsible for what harms you, but you are responsible for how you heal. This responsibility is not a burden. It is your gateway to power. In these moments, your rituals and identity must support you. You lean into your breath. You return to presence. You embrace your discipline. You allow yourself patience. And slowly, consistently, peace begins to rise. There will be setbacks. There will be moments of doubt, times when positivity feels like betrayal of your pain, but that is not true. Positivity does not replace pain. It supports you through it. You do not erase your suffering. You carry it with strength. This is the kind of positivity that lasts. When life resists you, remind yourself of who you are becoming, the person who faces difficulty with steadiness, the person who does not collapse under pressure, the person who evolves through adversity. This reminder is not motivation, it is grounding. You are not defined by what happens to you, but how you carry yourself when it happens. And that realization shifts everything. You become less reactive, more resilient, more calm. You stop seeing hardship as an interruption and begin to view it as part of growth. You stop resenting the storm and start walking through it with dignity. This is emotional leadership. When the world feels dark, your light must come from within. When the path feels unclear, your clarity becomes your guide. When uncertainty tries to pull you off balance, your presence holds you steady. There is strength in silence, strength in breath, strength in intentional movement. Every time you choose to stay grounded in chaos, you reinforce your control. Every time you resist the urge to spiral, you complete another layer of transformation. And that transformation reshapes how future storms affect you. Over time, what once overwhelmed you
becomes manageable. What once paralyzed you becomes a challenge you face with courage. This is growth in motion. It is not glamorous, it is not dramatic, it is quiet and powerful. It happens inside you, in moments no one sees, moments where you choose to breathe through discomfort rather than feed it. This quiet mastery becomes your strength. And when life finally begins to cooperate again, as it always eventually does, you realize something profound. You did not survive. You evolved. Staying positive when life refuses to cooperate is not about forcing a smile onto a broken moment. It is about honoring your pain while maintaining your intention. It is about choosing hope even when certainty is absent. Hope is not denial. Hope is decision, and decision is power. The more times you choose strength in chaos, the more natural it becomes. The more consistent your response, the more reliable your stability. Eventually, positivity no longer feels like effort during hardship. It becomes instinct. You meet challenge with calm. You meet uncertainty with patience. You meet resistance with determination. That is not forced positivity. That is embodied resilience. This resilience does not eliminate pain. It coexists with it. It gives pain shape, context, and meaning. It allows growth to rise from struggle instead of collapse to emerge from despair. This is the core of your transformation. You are not becoming someone who remains positive only when things make sense. You are becoming someone who remains steady when nothing does. And that steadiness is what gives you emotional authority. So when life refuses to cooperate, do not ask why this is happening. Ask who this moment is shaping you into. Ask what strength it is drawing from you. Ask what discipline it reveals. Those answers carry you forward. And with each challenge, your posture becomes more grounded, your presence more powerful, your clarity more defined, because the truth is simple and unshakable. The strongest positivity is not built in comfort. It is forged in resistance and lived with intention. And as you continue walking through this path, one truth becomes undeniable. You are no longer depending on circumstances to stay positive. You are becoming the source of your own stability.
Chapter 7. Protecting your energy from what drains you. There is a truth that changes everything once you see it clearly. Not everything that makes you tired is physical. Much of your exhaustion comes from what you carry emotionally, from the environments you stay in too long, from the conversations that leave you feeling smaller, from the constant noise that pulls at your attention and weakens your focus. Staying positive is not only about strengthening your mind, it is also about protecting it. Because no matter how disciplined you become, if you continue exposing yourself to situations that drain your spirit, positivity will always feel like an uphill battle. Your energy is your most valuable resource. It fuels your clarity, your focus, your emotional stability, and your growth. When it is protected, you feel light. When it is misused, everything feels heavy. Most people lose their energy not through large dramatic events, but through small daily leaks. Conversations that feel forced, environments filled with tension, endless digital scrolling, constant emotional comparison. Over time, these small leaks compound into emotional fatigue. The first step to protecting your energy is awareness. Begin noticing how certain people make you feel, not how you think you should feel, but how you actually feel when you leave their presence. Do you feel calmer or more anxious, more focused or more scattered, more grounded or more depleted? Your emotional state after an interaction is the truth you must listen to. Not everyone who once belonged in your life will belong in your future. This is not cruelty. This is evolution. Growth requires space, and sometimes that space is created by distance. Choosing distance does not mean rejecting people. It means choosing yourself. Protecting your energy means limiting exposure to what consistently pulls you down. It means stepping back from environments where negativity thrives. It means refusing to give your emotional attention to situations that do not support your growth. This is not isolation.
This is discernment. Your digital environment deserves as much attention as your physical one. What you watch, what you read, what you continuously consume shapes your emotional rhythm. Constant exposure to content filled with fear, comparison, or hostility trains your mind to remain on edge. Replace that with content that nourishes clarity, curiosity, and calm. Your mind absorbs everything you feed it. Choose wisely. Another powerful shift occurs when you stop carrying emotional weight that does not belong to you. You are not responsible for everyone's mood. You are not obligated to fix every problem. You are not required to absorb every frustration around you. Learn to care without becoming consumed. This boundary protects your emotional flow. You can be compassionate without becoming overwhelmed. You can support others without sacrificing your own stability. Strength lies in balance, not in emotional self-abandonment. Rest is part of energy protection. Without rest, your emotional defenses weaken, your patience thins, your focus fractures. Giving yourself permission to rest is not weakness. It is renewal. Silence restores clarity. Stillness repairs your inner world. Your body and mind rebuild in calm. Energy protection also means honoring your limits, saying no when you feel stretched, pausing when you feel exhausted, listening when your body asks for space. These are acts of self-respect, not selfishness. Self-respect strengthens positivity. When you protect your energy, your emotional landscape becomes clearer. You feel more centered. Your thoughts become sharper. Your reactions soften. You feel less scattered and more intentional. This clarity allows joy to return. The authentic joy that comes from not constantly being drained. The joy of presence. The joy of alignment. You begin to notice how different your emotional state feels when you honor your boundaries. The tension eases, the heaviness lifts, the mental noise quiets, and in that quiet, you reconnect with yourself. You remember what it feels like to feel whole. Protecting your energy also changes your relationships. You become more honest, more grounded, more selective with your time and emotional investment. Your connections deepen because they are chosen consciously. Your energy becomes stable, and stability attracts healthy connection. This chapter is not about pushing people away. It is about pulling yourself closer, closer to your needs, closer to your peace, to your clarity. When your energy is guarded, negativity struggles to enter. Your mind remains clear. Your emotional control strengthens. Your positivity becomes sustainable rather than fragile. This protection allows you to show up more fully in every area of your life. You become more present in conversations, more focused in your work, more intentional in your choices, and others begin to notice. Your presence carries a quiet confidence, a grounded strength, a peaceful authority. Not because you are trying to impress, but because you are honoring your inner world. Protecting your energy is one of the most powerful decisions you can make in your emotional journey. It tells your mind that your peace is valuable, that your clarity matters, that your stability is worth preserving. And this belief reshapes your identity. You no longer define yourself by how much you can endure. You define yourself by how wisely you choose to live. From this place, positivity stops being effort. It becomes flow. You begin to experience emotional steadiness not because nothing challenges you, but because you have learned where to draw the line between what deserves your energy and what does not. And that discernment becomes your strength. Because true emotional mastery is not about fighting every storm. It is about knowing which storms are not yours to stand in. Chapter 8. Rewiring your emotional response to stress. Stress is not the enemy you once believed it to be. It is a signal from your body that something feels intense, uncertain, or overwhelming.
The true problem is not the presence of stress. The problem is the way your mind has been conditioned to react to it. For most people, stress instantly activates panic. The heart races, the mind spirals, thoughts turn dark and overwhelming, and it feels as if control has been lost. But what feels like inevitability is actually learned behavior. Your nervous system has simply been trained to react instead of respond. To stay positive in a sustainable way, you must learn to change this response. You must teach your body that stress does not mean danger. You must show your mind that pressure does not require collapse. This shift begins with awareness. The moment you feel stress rising, pause. Become aware of it without resisting it. Instead of saying, "This is too much," say, "This is energy moving through me." This subtle shift removes fear from the sensation and replaces it with understanding. Your breath is the most powerful tool you possess in this moment. Slow, purposeful breathing calms the nervous system and tells the brain that you are safe. Each deep inhale lowers tension. Each conscious exhale releases emotional pressure. With every breath, you reclaim control. You are not avoiding stress. You are guiding it. Through this practice, your body begins to learn a new pattern. Stress no longer equals danger. Tension no longer equals panic. Over time, calm becomes your dominant response. This is how emotional mastery is built. Reframing stress is another crucial step. The meaning you assign to discomfort shapes your emotional state. When you label stress as harmful, your body reacts defensively. When you label it as a challenge, your body prepares for growth. Instead of thinking, "I cannot handle this," begin thinking, "This is strengthening me." Instead of, "This is overwhelming," shift to, "This is shaping my resilience." These reframes alter how your mind and body experience pressure. Your mind follows the story you tell it. Self-compassion also plays a vital role in this transformation. During stress, many people become harsh with themselves. They demand perfection. They criticize weaknesses. This only deepens emotional strain. Compassion softens the experience. It reminds you that struggle is part of being human. Speak gently to yourself. Offer reassurance. Remind yourself that this moment will pass. This internal kindness restores balance far more effectively than self-punishment ever could. As this becomes habitual, you begin to notice that stress does not have the same grip it once did. You recover faster, you breathe deeper, you respond more thoughtfully. The spiral shortens, the chaos fades quicker. This is progress. You begin realizing that stress is temporary. It rises and falls. It does not define you. It does not own you. It is simply energy needing guidance. Instead of fighting the wave, you learn to ride it. This ability builds resilience. You stop viewing stress as a threat and start viewing it as feedback, as information, as a moment that invites presence and clarity. In this space, your positivity strengthens. You no longer panic when pressure arrives. You center yourself. You ground your awareness. You choose your response consciously. This emotional intelligence reshapes how you experience life. You begin to feel safer within yourself. Your nervous system relaxes more quickly. Your thoughts become clearer. Your emotional control deepens. And with that control, positivity stops feeling fragile. It becomes steady. You are not removing stress from your life. You are transforming your relationship with it, turning it from enemy into teacher, from burden into guide. As this transformation deepens, a new layer of strength emerges. You handle difficult situations with composure. You remain centered when challenges arise. You stay grounded when uncertainty appears. This steady presence becomes your new baseline. Stress becomes a moment of awareness, not collapse. You stop being consumed by emotional turbulence and start navigating it with confidence. This is the power of rewiring. It is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is subtle.
but transformative. It changes your emotional landscape at its core. Through consistent practice and conscious awareness, your mind learns a new response. Instead of panic, presence. Instead of fear, clarity. Instead of overwhelm, control. And as this new response becomes natural, positivity no longer feels forced. It becomes part of your emotional foundation, a steady calm that carries you through life's storms, a grounded clarity that protects your inner world, a strength that allows you to remain whole no matter the pressure. And in this steadiness, you realize something powerful. You are not reacting to stress anymore. You are leading your emotions through it. Chapter 9. Becoming the calmest person in the room. There is a rare kind of strength that does not announce itself. It does not rush. It does not argue for space. It simply exists with certainty. This strength belongs to the individual who remains calm when everyone else feels unsettled, the one who does not panic when tension rises, the one who steadies the atmosphere without ever raising their voice. Becoming the calmest person in the room is not about suppressing emotion. It is about mastering it. It is about understanding that reaction is impulse, while response is power. When chaos surrounds you, your ability to remain centered becomes your greatest influence. Most people believe calmness means indifference. In truth, calmness means awareness. You feel fully, but you do not allow those feelings to control your behavior. You observe the emotion, you acknowledge it, and then you choose how to act. This choice separates emotional reaction from emotional leadership. When tension arises, your instinct may be to match the energy of others, to speak louder, to defend, to interrupt. But true authority lies in restraint, in presence, in pause. That pause creates space for clarity. Silence becomes a tool, not a sign of weakness, but a moment of evaluation, a breath between stimulus and response. In that breath, wisdom forms. When you practice silence, you gain insight, you observe body language, you sense emotional shifts, you understand the dynamics of the room. This awareness allows you to move with intention rather than instinct. This composure shifts how others perceive you. People trust the calm. They lean toward it. They feel safe around it. Your presence steadies the environment without force. To become this person, you must train your nervous system to remain grounded when pressure appears. This happens through conscious breathing, focused awareness, and the refusal to be rushed by emotional noise. When others escalate, you slow down. When voices rise, you soften yours. When tension grows, you become still. This stillness is not passive. It is strategic. It gives you control over the emotional direction of the moment. Calmness allows you to respond from clarity instead of fear. Your words become weighed and precise. Your tone becomes steady. Your posture communicates confidence. This presence does not need explanation. The calmest person in the room does not react to provoke. They move with intention. They do not chase control. They embody it. This embodiment is built through internal trust. When you trust your ability to handle emotional pressure, your body relaxes, your mind steadies, your energy becomes balanced. This trust grows through repetition, through choosing patience again and again, through responding instead of reacting, through grounding yourself when everything around you shifts. Over time, this calm becomes natural. You no longer force it. It becomes who you are. You stop being shaken by external chaos. You remain attentive and clear. You carry presence into every space you enter. This influence extends into relationships. Your calmness diffuses conflict. Your steadiness reassures others. Your clarity guides conversations. You stop being controlled by emotional momentum and start shaping it. This is emotional authority. Not dominance, not suppression, but clarity. The calmest person in the room does not avoid difficult conversations. They navigate them with patience. They listen with intent. They speak when necessary. They know that silence sometimes holds more power than words. This knowledge transforms communication. You begin to speak less, but with greater impact. You choose your moments wisely. You hold your ground without hostility. People respect this energy because it feels grounded and authentic. And as your calm presence strengthens, so does your positivity. You no longer look outward for emotional stability. You carry it within. You become centered even when uncertainty surrounds you. This presence reshapes your identity. You no longer see yourself as reactive or overwhelmed. You begin to see yourself as composed, steady, and emotionally intelligent. And this self-perception reinforces your growth. You begin believing in your strength not because life is easy, but because you know how to remain calm when it is not. This belief is transformative. With this calmness, life does not feel as heavy. You recover faster from stress. You think more clearly under pressure. You trust your choices. You no longer live in fear of emotional disruption. You face it with steadiness. This steadiness becomes part of your character, a character that radiates confidence without needing validation, a presence that influences without force, a strength that steadies the storm. And through this steadiness, you understand something essential. Calmness is not a personality trait. It is a discipline, a practice, a choice made repeatedly until it becomes instinct. Each moment you choose to remain calm, you strengthen this identity. Each time you stay grounded under pressure, your emotional control deepens. And this deepened control shapes the final evolution of your positivity. Because once you embody calmness, positivity no longer fluctuates with circumstance. It stabilizes, it strengthens, it becomes who you are. You walk through the world not as someone reacting to emotional turbulence, but as someone guiding energy through presence. And in that presence, your positivity becomes powerful, infectious, and enduring. Not loud, but unwavering. Not forced, but natural. Not temporary, but lasting. And that is when you realize the truth. The calmest person in the room is often the strongest. And now that strength lives within you.
Chapter 10. Becoming the source of your own light. There comes a point where the struggle to stay positive no longer feels like a battle. The fight softens. The urgency fades. You stop searching outward for something to hold you steady and realize that stability has been forming inside you all along. This is the moment you understand that positivity is no longer something you chase. It is something you embody. You are no longer reacting to life, you are responding to it. You no longer feel controlled by emotional waves. You feel guided by awareness. And this shift is not dramatic. It is subtle, it is quiet, but it changes everything. Becoming the source of your own light means recognizing that your emotional state no longer depends on perfect conditions. It is not tied to approval, comfort, or ease. It comes from a deeper place, a place shaped by self-knowledge, discipline, and presence. You begin each day with intention rather than impulse. You move with clarity rather than fear. You speak with calm instead of urgency. You listen with patience instead of reaction. This is not accidental. This is the result of your growth. You have learned how to witness your thoughts without being consumed. You have learned how to manage your stress without collapsing. You have learned how to protect your energy without guilt. You have learned how to remain grounded when life feels unstable. And now these skills no longer feel like effort. They feel natural. This naturalness is your new identity. You no longer define yourself by your past struggles. You define yourself by the strength you have built. You are not the person who once spiraled under pressure. You are the one who breathes through uncertainty. You are the one who chooses clarity in moments of confusion. This version of you carries quiet power, a power that does not demand attention but invites respect. You begin to notice how people respond to your energy. They trust your presence. They feel calmer around you. They sense steadiness in your words. You stop trying to convince and start simply being. And being is enough. You have become your own foundation. You no longer need emotional permission from the world. You grant yourself steadiness. You grant yourself peace. You grant yourself permission to feel without losing control. This self-leadership
is the final layer of your transformation. You step fully into ownership of your emotional world. You know that moments of doubt may still arise, but you trust your ability to guide yourself through them. You know that difficulty may still appear, but you believe in your resilience. This belief is not blind optimism. It is earned trust in your own capacity. You understand now that staying positive was never about denying darkness. It was about learning to carry your own light through it. You embrace the full range of human emotion without being pulled apart by it. You experience sadness without drowning. You experience stress without panicking. You experience uncertainty without collapsing into fear. This balance makes you whole. You no longer resist your feelings, you respect them. You no longer judge your emotional state, you guide it. This guidance shapes how you move forward in the world. You choose growth over stagnation, presence over distraction, intention over reaction, and through this choice, you become aligned with your true self. This alignment brings peace, a quiet peace that does not depend on perfection, a grounded calm that remains steady through fluctuation. You become someone who walks through life with inner certainty, someone who has learned to stand still in emotional storms, someone who knows how to create clarity in moments of chaos. This clarity becomes your signature. You speak with thoughtfulness. You move with purpose. You remain steady when others waver. You lead by presence rather than force. And in this presence, your positivity becomes undeniable, not loud, not exaggerated, not forced, but real, rooted, enduring. The journey you began was not simply about staying positive. It was about becoming emotionally conscious, self-aware, grounded, whole. And now that journey continues not as a struggle, but as a way of living. You wake up knowing you are capable of guiding your emotional world. You move through the day knowing you can return to calm. You fall asleep knowing your clarity remains intact. This is not perfection. It is mastery in progress. And within this progress, something extraordinary lives. A quiet confidence that sustains you. A presence that stabilizes you. A clarity that strengthens you. You have become the source of your own light. And because of that, no matter what life presents, you carry something unshakable. Not just positivity, but strength. Not just calm, but wisdom. Not just discipline, but truth. This truth will guide you forward through uncertainty, through challenge, through growth. And wherever you go, your inner light goes with you, steady, clear, unwavering.